Hi,
Tiffany.
everyone. Thank you for your patience with that. So this work link is working now, which is great.
Good to hear.
I don't know if Lucy or Sonia, you wanted to do a quick introduction, but for those who doesn't know me, I'm Genevieve. I'm the account manager looking after the partnership between Mintel and New Skin Belgium. So it's a pleasure to meet some of you for the first time. And I have the pleasure to introduce you to Stephanie, who will be speaking today. So without further ado, Stephanie, I'll let you start.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for spending some of your evening with us tonight. I'm really looking forward to giving it, hopefully, what will be an inspiring talk about what's next in the European supplement market, and really looking at what trends are defining the category. So I'm Stephanie Matucci. I'm a principal strategist here at Mintel, and I specialize in food, nutrition, and consumer behavior. And my work at Mintel really focuses on helping brands cut through the consumer complexity, connecting that science, culture, and data to really guide innovation, positioning, and growth. So, if you're not familiar with Mintel, we are the world's leading market intelligence agency, and we work with our partners like Nu Skin to help businesses make those better decisions faster. And by blending consumer research, market data, and expert interpretation, we're able to connect the emerging signals into a commercial reality, helping you see what's changing, why it matters, and how to act. Now, today we're going to be taking a look at the vitamins, minerals, and supplement category to learn about the wellness trends that we need to be paying attention to in order to unlock growth opportunities for both today and tomorrow. The industry really benefits from some of those overarching wellness trends related to longevity, gut health, women's health, and optimized performance. And as we know, longevity is more than just anti aging. It really encompasses a broader aspect of features, including the physical, mental, and cognitive function. In recent years, cognitive support benefits are gaining relevance, and cognitive support is sought out by consumers through supplements to help improve attention, memory, and overall brain function. We also see metabolic and whole body balance benefits broadening to appeal to the interest consumers are having in metabolic, cardiovascular, and digestive health. And that's driving demand for supplements that maybe manage cholesterol or blood pressure, but also ones that support a healthy gut microbiome. And of course, immunity continues to be a key focus, a daily priority as people manage the day to day challenges of staying healthy. Immune support continues to gain traction as consumers look for those nutrients to help their bodies stay resilient and prevent illness. In fact, in the UK, for example, 53% of vitamin, minerals, and supplement users say they take those products to support their immune system. This desire for better, healthier, longer lives is going to put more focus on health, and there'll be opportunities for technology to help improve those health spans. So, what do we see shaping the category right now today? One of those is personalized health solutions. We're seeing that continue to gain momentum. Supplements are keeping pace with consumers' demand for holistic and personalized offerings. And that personalization can be a key differentiator. For example, 32% of Germans have tested themselves for a vitamin or mineral deficiency in the past year. And that really signals a shift for this quest for information, but also a desire for those tailored solutions. So I think there's opportunities there to align with consumers' different identities and lifestyles, being as a way to stand out, giving them those tailored recommendations. And adding to this desire for insight about their own health, and ways to improve that, we see interest in areas like the gut microbiome or blood glucose tracking. Those have been really interesting areas to watch as science based, personalized nutrition areas of growth. Now, another area that has been shaping the industry has been related to women's health. The perimenopause and menopause health movement are experiencing significant growth. And further supporting this transformation is not only the number of people who are going through that today, and entering that life stage, but we also see an increased awareness as well as destigmatization and this demand for holistic and personalized solutions that can help women manage these symptoms during this change of life, whether that's managing hot flashes or mood changes or possibly weight gain. And speaking of weight gain, the breakthrough in GLP-1 medications are changing the weight management category. And that's a theme that we're going to explore a lot today. The GLP-1 era is really amplifying that conversation about weight management. And those supplements that can naturally boost GL1 production have emerged, as well as other companion products to manage those different side effects that GLP-1 users may have. That could include things like muscle preservation, hydration, or side effect management, specifically thinking of GI related symptoms. So, with that in mind, what do we see that's on the horizon for the next 2 years? I anticipate we're going to see more attention actually placed on men's health. We're going to be looking for those holistic solutions to support metabolic health, going beyond just the weight management aspect of that, and also looking for ways to improve health spans overall. These are the three core areas we're going to focus a lot today on. And then looking a little bit further out, looking at 5 years and beyond, what should we be paying attention to? I think that intersection between technology and health certainly will be an important one to focus on, especially as we see AI revolutionize wellness. And at the same time, though, as we see all this information and this access to information coming in, we're going to have to keep in mind how that information overload could lead to more health anxiety and ways to guide and help consumers navigate all of that. So, with that in mind, let's explore these opportunities in more depth, starting with men's health. There's a genuine opportunity here to support men's health, especially when you start to look at the data when it comes to life expectancy. We see that men typically have a lower life expectancy than women, and that gap has been widening in recent years. Now, today, that gap is about 6 years. So we see the global life expectancy for males being 68 years, but it's 74 for women. So that wellness gap is really, helped. One part of that is defined by the life expectancy, but there's also other areas where we see a gender gap between wellness. And the wellness gap really refers to this disparity between well being and health outcomes when it comes to men and women. For example, there's a wellness gap in areas like chronic disease, loneliness, as well as men's health. We see that men are more likely to be obese. They're also more likely to develop and die from chronic diseases such as heart disease or cancer. They're also more likely to die by suicide, even though fewer men are actually diagnosed with depression or mood disorders. Suicide is a higher risk for men. And then we also see when it comes to comparing these differences, there's different things related to environmental hazards or occupational risks that can disproportionately affect men's health. Now, well, some of the things that I listed are, biological factors. There, some of those play into here, and those are fixed. There are other factors such as behavioral, social, cultural, as well as environmental factors that can be addressed and can be used to narrow the wellness gap. We know that this is a very complex and multifaceted issue, but brands will be able to support men and encourage them to take charge of their health in order to close this wellness gap. So, what does this mean for your business? Well, it could mean having those discussions with your customers, asking how everyone in the household is protecting their health, and finding those ways to get men more involved and encouraging them to take charge of their health. So when we look at closing the wellness gap and ways to support men. We need to rethink how we position solutions. First of all, starting with increased awareness. Awareness campaigns will need to focus on men's health needs, campaigns that can encourage men to seek help, really finding that value and that importance of preventative care. That's super important. Those simple, authentic messages can help engage men with that importance of being proactive about their health. Secondly, is tailoring solutions to meet men's health needs. Interventions specifically tailored to their needs and what they're looking for. We see that there's some interesting opportunities to support multifaceted areas of their wellness and of their health. For example, in the U.S., about a third of men, 35 to 54, say they're interested in trying non-prescription products when it comes to combating hair loss, indicating that there's more opportunities to approach men and support men with different supplements. But I think one of the things that's most important with this is how we're talking about it. Really pivoting from that idea of self care or taking care of yourself to taking action. The word care itself is often considered a female coded word just because of the cultural associations with care, the different traits, behaviors, and the type of work that societies have historically assigned to women. So, at this language level, there can be some gender coding involved here when we're talking about care itself. So, I think looking at ways to close the wellness gap takes requires us to take a look on a social and cultural level and finding the things that might be discouraging men from seeking help in the first place. We know that men are less likely to seek out medical care or engage in preventative health behaviors, which is really dangerous because it can lead to delayed diagnosis as well as the treatment of those health conditions. So let's think about ways that we can engage men with supplements by innovating specifically around their health needs or campaigns that encourage men to really be proactive and in charge of their health. This is a really important time for this too. And I do think that we will see men looking for alternatives out there from things like the manosphere. If you're not familiar with that term, the manosphere is a word that's used to describe this loosely connected online network of communities or ideologies centered around men's issues. But unfortunately, it does have a dark side with misogyny, toxic masculinity, and harmful ideologies. So the manosphere, I think one thing that does demonstrate is that there is an audience for those male specific issues. And when we see looking at supplement data from Mintel here, we see there is interest in learning more about supplements with 57% of German men saying they'd like to learn more about this category. But we see that there is those things that are holding them back, perhaps. You know, when it comes to preventative care in the UK, 84% of consumers only go to the doctor when they feel really unwell. So there's needs to really encourage them and get them engaged earlier on in their health process before it becomes an issue too late. When you just look at the supplement category itself in terms of what products are available, we do see that there are more products positioned for women than there are for men. So, using our global new product database, where we're tracking products around the world and understanding how these products are being positioned or claimed, what we see is that within the span of global vitamins, minerals, and supplement products, less than 2% were targeted for men compared to 5% for women. So I think there's some opportunities there to raise the bar and level the playing field, at least when it comes to supplements supporting both men's health and women's health. As I was saying, the idea of encouraging engagement with the category, I think, is important to promoting that preventative care to get them the help they need before it becomes a larger problem. And right now, there is a gap there. So we see in France, for example, 40% of men say they don't take a vitamin, mineral, or supplement because their health seems fine without it. So this means establishing a need, a consistent need to be taking these supplements regularly. One strategy could be to encourage those young men to engage in the category and get them on those healthier behaviors at a younger age. We see an example of a product in the US from Smarty Pants that is targeting teenage boys there with different supplements to support their whole body as they go through their teenage years. Specific nutrients called out for eye health, bone health, and immune health. Looking at ways to address men's wider health needs could be when they are having a problem, as we see that's kind of a nice pathway into engaging men since they're more reactive perhaps when it comes to their health than proactive. One area certainly is related to prostate health, looking for ways to support men as they age and keeping their prostate healthy and functioning as it should. Or it might be helping consumers with their longevity goals, supporting those critical areas, especially things like heart health, which we know is a huge risk factor for men. Now, the second big opportunity I see on the horizon are those holistic solutions to support metabolic health, both for men and for women. Metabolic health really is that next big thing in the consumer's wellness movement. We see that there are concerns over those chronic health conditions, things like obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease. These all have roots in poor metabolic health. Additionally, things like insomnia is known as a risk factor for metabolic syndrome. So, looking at the multiple areas of health that influence those chronic health conditions. Positively, though, we're seeing some integration of tech based solutions making that idea of personalized health more accessible and empowering individuals to take charge of their metabolic health. Additionally, as a solution to this large problem, we see things like the GLP-1 medications gaining popularity. That is really reflecting this demand consumers have to not only manage their weight, but also manage their insulin regulation. So when it comes to GLP-1 medications, they were originally developed for diabetics in order to help them manage their insulin and manage that condition. It turns out that it does have a weight loss benefit, so we've seen it pivot to support that as well. But it's really in addition to the weight management that it's been so publicized and talked about, I think that it really does amplify the conversation around metabolism, around appetite, and these other alternative ways to support weight management and these larger health conditions. And it's really important to understand that the GLP 1s are not just about weight loss. They do have multiple benefits, as I was mentioning, first with their origin related to diabetes, but also just looking and understanding this interconnected nature of metabolic health. For example, one of the GLP-1 medications out there has been approved in the US for treating obstructive sleep apnea. So I think this really shows us how interconnected our metabolic health is and also increases the awareness and the importance of managing it all together as a system, not in silos. So when it comes to sleep quality, stress response, I think those are some really interesting ways to look at in terms of supporting metabolic health, especially as there is a holistic approach to that way of well-being. Now, the sleep stress weight connection is something that we're going to see consumers paying more attention to. I think in the future, consumers are going to start to understand that relationship between sleep and stress, as well as their blood sugar control, and that's going to propel new innovation for solutions to support metabolic health holistically. Maybe it's with those stress relieving adaptogens or sleep enhancing ingredients. And we know metabolic health is multifaceted, both from internal factors related to your genetics, your hormones, your microbiome, but also external factors like your diet, physical activity, sleep, and stress. And this link between sleep and weight, that's not new. But what is new is the rise of the GLP-1 medications, bringing more attention about metabolic health. And I think cascading down the line, that role sleep and stress play into that. So, good sleep hygiene is something that can help regulate blood sugar, but sleep deprivation that can increase your cortisol levels and disrupt your insulin sensitivity. So, those stress hormones, specifically looking at cortisol here, the negative influence that has on your blood sugar, elevating those levels. I think it's going to be important to address this and support. Consumers with those comprehensive well being solutions, including sleep management as part of that. So, as I was mentioning, some of the ingredients that we could look towards things like adaptogens or natural remedies, things that can help break that sleep stress cycle and make it because if you're stressed, it's harder to sleep, and then if you don't have sleep, then you're more stressed, and it just keeps going in a cycle, right? So, looking for those solutions that can break that cycle, personalized sleep solutions, helping consumers tackle them and manage those lifestyle things as well. So when you're taking this all in, thinking about your customers, how might they be thinking about their health and their weight holistically? Are there areas to provide support that maybe they've overlooked before? Could it be those areas of sleep support or stress reductions? What new ways can we offer these holistic benefits to support wellness as we see the conversation about metabolic health continue and become truly more holistic? So, building on those first two growth opportunities, closing the wellness gap for men and offering those holistic support for metabolic health and weight management really ties to our third growth opportunity, which is improving health spans. There's a push to not only live longer lives, but also to live longer lives more healthfully. For example, in Germany, as we see life expectancy is rising, we see that consumers' priorities are shifting from just living longer to living healthier for longer. So there really is a difference here between lifespan, which is just a quantitative number of years, and health span, which are the years defined as being in good physical and mental health. So that's becoming increasingly well understood, with 60% of Germans aware of that distinction. And interestingly enough, we see awareness is notably higher in those Gen Z and millennial consumers compared to older generations. And this growing demand of awareness is going to continue to shape demand for VMS. So, with Germans currently likely to use VMS to improve their current health as there are to prevent health issues, those products supported for long term well being and healthy aging, especially things that are well positioned, can really continue this demand. I think there's a lot of opportunity there to align with consumer interest in that aging related holistic health support. We already see that connection between diet and sleep sinking in here. So, for example, 75% of Germans agree that eating healthy can slow down the aging process, and 80% believe that getting enough sleep is essential for aging well. It's really important that we think about this in the entire context and the entire system. But let's just take a moment here and pause and think about what longevity is all about. Really, what people are trying to get, and I think that they're trying to get more time. There's a song that I heard a lot in my childhood from a singer songwriter here in the U.S. called Jim Croce. The song is called "Time in a Bottle." I'm not sure if that's familiar to anyone else on the call, but there's a line in this song that goes, "But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them." And this human desire for more time will continue to fuel this demand for longevity supplements, literally selling consumers that time in a bottle. So I think, if we think about it this way, we think about longevity as rather just selling a number of years, but we're selling them time. That can really appeal to a broader audience, focusing on those solutions that give you more quality of time and benefits that you can feel today, versus just looking at a longer term goal and trying to live to some abstract age, right? So perhaps when it's coming to selling consumers more time or improving the quality of the time they have today, maybe it's things like less joint pain. Maybe it's more energy. Maybe it's better sleep. And I think if we think about aging in that way, it can create some opportunities to really connect with your customers with those solutions that they can benefit from today, and also benefit by allowing solutions that could appeal to consumers who might not be able to afford those more expensive anti-aging supplements or those expensive biohacking type solutions that are often seen on the market. Just as an example of kind of what I mean by some of those expensive products on the market, the green box on the slide here from Intivity, they're offering a anti-aging supplement here that is designed to help increase your cellular NDA levels, improve your mood, metabolic health, etc. But it's quite expensive, coming in at 227 US dollars for a 30-day supply. I think that puts it out of reach for many people. And so looking at ways to support energy, support health in a more economical fashion, I think is could be really beneficial here. So, other examples, we see more energy, less fatigue in the blue packaging from Nutrition Geeks in the UK. This is one where you're taking this an hour before bedtime to enhance your sleep quality, and improve your daytime energy and sleep management. So, tying these all together, selling consumers those benefits that they can feel today. Maybe it's also with that immune support system. We see that in the middle, looking at ways to give you that daily support for energy, strength, and immunity. Now, cellular aging, one of the benefits we saw in that more expensive product that was on the previous slide, we see that emerging as a selling point in longevity supplements. And I think that there is more research that will be going underway in that area, really targeting the aging mechanisms at a cellular level, and how that can be used to increase longevity overall. And we do see, people are looking for that time. They're looking for ways to feel their best for as long as possible, and there is some interest in there in looking for ways to protect their cellular health, or things that can slow down the visible aging process, things like graying of your hair, or your bones getting more brittle. So things that can tap into that, those longer term goals, will also be appealing, as we see this longevity quest continue and expand. But the big question here is, right, how are we going to do this? How are we going to actually live longer and live better? Well, I think if we look forward to the next 5 years, seeing that combination of technology, especially with AI and the advanced scientific advancements, that's going to play a significant role in shaping wellness. With those more sophisticated at-home diagnostic tools, things that let consumers take charge of their health on their own terms. And yet at the same time, we do need to be aware about the risk of all this data overload. How can we be that human voice in that conversation, something that can play that role to alleviate the health anxiety consumers might be feeling? Already, we know consumers are hungry for more information about their health. We see so many consumers that want to know about their health, such as taking a test to understand if their supplements are working, or maybe it's finding a new way to optimize their health through their physical exercise or things they currently don't have time to really devote on to improving. But I think that idea is giving consumers that information can help their feeling that can help guide them to those better choices, and linking that digital innovation that supports people's wellness efforts really does have the potential to drive more engagement with the VMS, vitamin, minerals, and supplement category by addressing those wider uncertainties. It really has the potential to give them the tools to make the choice that's right for them. So advice from health apps on, maybe what supplement they should be taking, that's something we see aligning to consumers, especially if they're having a hard time knowing if they're getting enough nutrients in their diet. Already we see 62% of UK adults saying it's hard to know whether they should be adding more of certain nutrients to their diet because it's just kind of it's a unknown to them what they're doing if it's really making an impact. And people are looking for that validation. For example, 32% of adults in Germany say they have tested themselves for those vitamins or mineral deficiencies in the past 12 months. So simple, easy to use tools, things like your Prism IO, that can help consumers see the actions that they're taking and if it's making a difference in their health. And that will keep them going to making those lasting changes for those healthier, longer lives. I think this is something that will matter a lot to men in particular, especially as we see AI being involved in helping mediate that discovery at the top of the funnel. That relevance of if it can be useful in context is going to be something that's going to help engage men, especially when we see that interest in wellness technology. It's something that's high, but adoption lags because it's not because people don't want that, but they don't want more data, but they do want those clear actionable outcomes. And speaking of men specifically, for example, in the US, over half of men aged 18 to 34, they say they already feel overwhelmed with too much information. And AI powered tools, specifically those health tools, I think they do have an opportunity to help close that wellness gap by translating the complexity into simple, outcome driven guidance, things that can help men take charge of their health without requiring them to become experts first. Now, again, we're still early on in terms of accepting and embracing AI in terms of that wellness and that health factor. For example, in the UK, we only see 13% of adults saying they're seeking that information about vitamins, minerals, or dietary supplements by asking AI. But it is certainly something to keep an eye on, especially as that can rapidly change this rapid growing area of technology. Other areas where technology is rapidly growing is really in that at home um, diagnostic space, which I think is just fascinating to see how much this is growing. Certainly, AI is propelling that and translating that data and all those inputs into an actionable outcome. But if you take a look at the slide here, from all of the different tools that we see, it really ranges from everything from the bathroom to the bedroom to the kitchen, really whatever room you're in. These tools can be integrated into consumers' lives to give them more information about their health. So for the first one that you're looking at, this is it might be a little bit hard to see because the white blends into that toilet seat there, but you'll notice a white disc inside the toilet, and that is UScan by Withings, which is a smart device for at-home urine analysis that you can install into your toilet. Then the app is able to measure specific things about that urine, the specific gravity, your pH, your vitamin C, your ketone levels, with the goal of helping people track their metabolism, hydration, and nutrients in real time. You're not having to go to a lab to get that processed and then finding out information a couple days later. So, really quick, responsive information if you're looking for that level of insight on a urinalysis on a daily basis. Sleep quality, we've seen sleep tracking apps being around for a while. There are certainly those wearables that people have. This one is a smart mattress that is integrated with a pressure sensor. So it collects this information about your sleep, reports it to AI, and then gives you information about your sleep time, your posture, your sleep stages, in the goal to optimize and improve that overall sleep health. The third one is an example of Lingo from Abbott. And this is a continuous glucose monitor. It's a biowearable device. You can see him installing this on his arm, back of his arm right here. And it's designed to track your glucose in real time and give you those personalized insights and customized coaching about what you should be eating, exercising, how that can affect your blood glucose levels, but additionally, how your sleep and how your stress also affects those levels, and looking for those recommendations to help people manage their health. What's really interesting about this is that we've seen continuous glucose monitors on the market for a while for diabetics, but this is something that's starting to move into the more wellness space, more in the mainstream. So it's looking at people who aren't necessarily diabetic. Perhaps they have a family history of it. Perhaps they're pre diabetic or they're looking for ways to avoid being tipped into that category. Looking at that proactive step to manage their health earlier on by getting more data and more information. So with this health data becoming more accessible, tech enthusiasts are all ready to act and really become experts in this through the significant word of mouth influence that they have. The user influencers are highly engaged and they're really keen to learn about not only the tech information out there, but also broader health trends, VMS ingredients, and things like that. So I think that there's some opportunities to look at that specific market and really give those personalized, information-rich experiences, giving those that guidance and helping them understand, what's going on with their health. And it can be an approach to help connect with younger men, for example. We see them more engaged in tech devices. They're more likely to be the owners of some of these. And perhaps that idea of testing the nutrient levels and seeing the change over time could help them overcome that skepticism that they might have and really see that positive impact that products are having on them. Now, at the same time, we see that they're hungry for this information about their health. But how much information is too much? Brands really are going to need to be able to provide that clear guidance, especially as 49% of UK consumers say it's hard to know and understand how to be healthy due to the contradictory advice that's out there. And there is this constant stream of information, right? Whether it's from your own health wearables or online sources or social media, your doctors, your friends, your family, the news, this can all overwhelm consumers and could also lead to this obsessive monitoring and heightened health anxiety. So, looking at ways to support consumers for their long term well being also includes thinking about those balanced health information with actionable income insights to help reduce that information to support rather than overwhelm. Whoops, sorry about that. Skipped ahead on one of those slides. As I was saying, the consumer's stronger appetite for this information, we see that when we look at the way consumers are interested in getting information about their health. Maybe it's an online health quiz, maybe it's an interactive consumer-led alternative, such as chatbots or other things that can give you information about your health and really facilitate that discovery. But with these AI health powered information, it does have to be managed carefully. And I think the human touch is so critical here. And it can be that point of reassurance, making the whole experience and all the information that you're getting out of it more authentic and credible and truly human. So I really do think that is such an important thing. We can work alongside AI. It doesn't need to replace us. It can help us. But really, that human tool and human element is really key to connecting with people and helping them live their best lives going forward. I truly appreciate you all taking time out of your evening today to join me and learning more about these trends that are influencing the wellness industry. And I hope that I've been able to inspire you with some new ideas about how to build those connections with your clients. Now, before we close, I think there's four key things that I just want you to keep thinking about and hopefully drawing some insights from them as we go forward. So, one, asking how we can close that wellness gap for men, encouraging them to take charge of their health and closing that wellness gap, facilitating those connections, offering genuine health benefits to really help men take charge of their physical and mental health. Also looking what holistic solutions can we use to support metabolic health. GLP-1 medications have ignited the conversation about metabolic health, and that's going to continue to create opportunities to holistically improve our health. Looking specifically at those sleep management and stress management solutions through the lens of longevity. Instead of asking how many more, just specific number of years, how can we meaningfully give consumers more time every day? Looking at that way to sell consumers solutions that are going to give them improved quality of time with the benefits that they can feel today, things like energy, more focus, less pain, less stress. And then finally, how can we work along AI to revolutionize wellness? It's already changing healthcare. It's giving us those ability to make those personalized insights faster and in real time, and really support health in new ways. But it can also increase that health related anxiety. So, looking for that human touch there, how you can provide that actionable insight without overloading consumers and giving them instead the tools and that connection to feel empowered to take control of their health. Thank you all very much for your time, and I look forward to hearing any comments or any questions you may have. So please feel free to, add them in the chat, or we can follow up um, at another time. I do see some information in the chat, so it looks like, unless that was me trying to desperately get on at the beginning.
I've seen some maybe question about some data across market from Marzina, and a comment from Ludivine saying that the approach for men is super interesting. So if you don't have any questions right now, feel free to send them to me, and I'll be more than happy to link up with Stephanie if we need to go and dig maybe a bit deeper on our consumer panels. We'll be more than happy to help you and to answer any question afterwards.
Great.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.